And let me just start with a chant and then we'll get underway. Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityurma Amritam Gamaya Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, lead us from the unreal to the real, lead us from darkness unto light, lead us from death to immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace. The chant which I did is from the Vedas, and the texts we are going to talk about are also from the Vedas. The Vedas, we know, are the most ancient, most fundamental religious, spiritual texts of the Hindus. In the Vedas, you will find there are different, kinds of texts. Most of it deals with rituals, so the fire rituals of the ancient Hindus. And then there is another section of the text which deal with certain kinds of visualizations, meditations. And then finally, the text we are interested in, the spiritual teachings, the philosophical teachings. So the spiritual philosophical teachings in the Vedas are found in texts called Upanishads. There are many of these Upanishads. You find them scattered throughout the Vedas. And sometimes these Upanishads are at the ends of particular sections of the Vedas. So being at the end, one of the names that has come to be applied to what we are talking about now is Vedanta. Veda Anta. Anta literally means end. So the end of the Vedas. Now, it need not be actually at the end of a book. It could be somewhere in the middle of a Vedic text, but it's an end in the sense of being final, highest, ultimate teachings of the Vedas. So the Upanishads contain the final, the highest, the ultimate spiritual philosophical teachings of the Vedas. And in that sense, they are known as Vedanta. So an umbrella term for these Upanishadic teachings is Vedanta. And hence, for example, where I come from, the Vedanta Society. Now, these Upanishads, as I said, are many in number. Not all of them are equally important. So, for example, in our tradition, and most traditions today, in Vedantic traditions, we study 10, arguably 11 of these Upanishads. One reason being a great Vedanta master about 1400 years ago, Adi Shankaracharya in India, he selected 10 or 11 of these texts. I keep saying 10 or 11 because there is a scholastic dispute about one of those, the Shvetashvatara Upanishad, whether it was actually commented upon by Shankaracharya or not, but it's a minor dispute. So 10, let's say 10 Upanishads were selected by this master who lived 1400 years ago for writing commentaries, extensive Sanskrit commentaries, thanks to which we can understand these texts much better today. And so these 10 Upanishads becomes the syllabus for people who want to study Vedanta. So, for example, I have focused my studies on these 10 Upanishads. I've read the others also, but these are the basis of our Vedantic tradition. We even have a little Sanskrit verse which tells us the names of these 10 fundamental Upanishads. Nowadays, they're called 10 major Upanishads. In the tradition, there wasn't any difference between major Upanishad and minor Upanishad, but it's come to be like that because of the existence of the Sanskrit commentaries by Shankaracharya. The names of the 10 Upanishads, we have this nice little verse. It goes like this. Ishakena katha prashna mundamandukya titirihi aitareyam cha chandogyam brihadaranyakam tatha. So just the names. Isha Upanishad, Kena Upanishad, Katha Upanishad. You don't have to write it down. Don't even try. Mundaka Upanishad, Mandukya Upanishad, the Aitareya Upanishad, the Taittiriya Upanishad, Prashna Upanishad, Chandogya, and Brihadaranyaka. I know they won't mean much to most people, but these are basically the root texts of Hinduism today. Now, what happened was that multiple Vedantic masters commented on these texts. They wrote multiple commentaries, not that Shankaracharya, but multiple masters coming after him. I think he set up something of a trend in ancient India of writing commentaries on these. And these commentaries gave very different interpretations of the original texts. So these different interpretations became different schools of Vedanta. So again, Upanishads is Vedanta, but the commentaries, they lead to multiple interpretations. So now you have multiple schools of Vedanta. And why I'm saying this is to make it clear that I represent one school of Vedanta. It's not all of Vedanta, not necessarily all of Hinduism also. The school of Vedanta I represent, and which I'm going to talk about today, is Advaita Vedanta, the so-called non-dual Vedanta. Dvaita means two. Advaita, not two. So non-dual Vedanta. When I came to the United States, the teachers in India told me, be careful when you use words like dualism and non-dualism in the West. It's primarily a Christian country, so dualism would normally mean the dualism between, good and evil, heaven and hell, and God and the devil, things like that. In Vedanta, dualism and non-dualism mean something different. It's more metaphysical, ontological, meaning thereby the world, is it one reality or is it many? Obviously, it's experienced as many. The moment you look, open your eyes, you see many people, many things, many places. So variety is always experienced. Manyness, plurality is always experienced. But the question is this plurality, is it ultimate? Ultimately, the universe, does it consist of many things? Or behind all this, underlying all of it, deeper than all of this appearance of diversity and plurality, is there one reality? And depending on how you answer that, you have different schools of Vedanta. So, for example, the school I am going to talk about, Advaita Vedanta, would say, yeah, sure, you see many things. They are all appearances of one reality. So the truth is one, the reality is one. This one absolute reality appears as the variety that you see in this world, much as say water appears as 10,000 waves in the ocean, waves and bubbles and foam and whatnot. Or gold can appear to you in endless varieties of ornaments, golden ornaments, and so on. You get the idea. A good example is our dreams. When we fall asleep and we dream, the same mind by itself appears as a whole world. That doesn't mean that the dream world is real. It just means that variety can appear, you can experience variety, you can experience multiplicity, and yet it could still be one underlying thing. A movie screen, for example, appears as all the diverse characters in a movie and the action and the plot, but it's just pictures on a screen. So similarly, Advaita Vedanta holds that there is one underlying reality, and that appears as this world that we experience. And further, most important claim, which concerns us centrally today, is that this one underlying reality is you. We, uh, you might say, me. Whom do you mean? I mean all of us. Our innermost reality is that absolute reality. The classical way of expressing Advaita Vedanta is a text from the Upanishad. It says, Tat Tvam Asi, that thou art. Uh, a sentence that you come across in a lot of Indian philosophy. So this is from one of these Upanishads, the Chandogya Upanishad. It says, you are that absolute reality. Underlying this variety of the world, there is one absolute reality. And actually, if you would know yourself, if we would truly know what we are that absolute reality. And to realize that, to come to a living realization of that, is the goal of Advaita Vedanta. And the claim is that's the goal of life. Once you realize it's basically your identity with God. And once you realize that, you achieve the purpose of life, you transcend sorrow, you find fulfillment, all of that. But as I said, before we dive into all of that, what are the other interpretations possible? This is non dual. You can clearly see why it's non-dual. There's one ultimate reality, nothing apart from that, though it appears as many. So non-dual. But then there are dualistic schools which say, no, no, no. This reality, what you experience, this plurality, it's real. You can't dismiss it as an appearance. So there is the world with all its diversity. It really is there, ultimately so. And you exist as an individual being. You're not some kind of vague, pure consciousness or absolute reality or something like that. You are that individual being you see yourself as. And yes, that ultimate reality the Upanishads speak about, that exists. And that's the God of religion. So this is what is called dualism in Vedanta. Dualism means God, world, and individual, they exist really and absolutely. And then there are teachings about that. There are in between positions, which is not non-dualistic, which is not dualistic. In between position, for example, would be the school of qualified monism, in Sanskrit, Vishishtadvaita. This is a very popular school, actually. What it says is that there is one reality, but everything else is also real. It's not an appearance. It's not dreamlike. It's like whole and part. The whole thing which we experience is God, and we are all parts of God. So we are like each of us being a sentient being, we are sentient parts of God, but there is an insentient universe, matter and space and time and all of this, all the particles and quarks and quasars, all of that, that is the insentient part of God. So God is an organic whole whose parts are us and everything around us. And God exists beyond that also. You can clearly see this is quite different from the non-dualism. The non-dualism would say absolute reality, that's it. Everything else is an appearance. This one says, no, no, nothing is an appearance. It's all real, but it's all included. Like in the body. The example they use is, I have hands and feet and a mouth and a head. All of these are real, and they are all different from each other, but there's an organic unity in that they are part of the thing I call my body. Similarly, you can think of this universe as constituting the body of God. And if you're thinking of Spinoza, you would be right. It's a lot like Spinoza. So that's another variety of Vedanta. So there are all these varieties of Vedanta. We are not concerned with them today. We are concerned with the particular school, the particular flavor of Vedanta, which is called non-dual Vedanta. Okay, back to non-dual Vedanta. It's pretty easy to state what non-dual Vedanta wants to teach. That thou art Tattvamasi, you are that absolute reality. I can see smiles coming up on your faces. That sounds really nice. If I am the absolute reality, that's one of the sentences from the Upanishads. They are called Mahavakyas. Mahavakya in Sanskrit means great sentence, a profound sentence, um, and they summarize the entire teaching of Advaita Vedanta. Another Mahavakya would be Aham Brahmasmi, meaning I am Brahman. Each of us could say that. I am Brahman. Brahman is that absolute reality. Another one would be I am Atma Brahma. This very self is the absolute reality, Brahman. Another Mahavakya, the fourth one would be Prajnanam Brahma. This very awareness, this consciousness which we are experiencing now, if truly understood, if investigated, would reveal to us it is Brahman, it's the absolute reality. You notice that all of them are telling you the same thing. You are that. I am Brahman. This very self is Brahman. This awareness, which I feel to myself to be, this is the absolute reality. So, this identity of the individual and absolute reality or ultimate reality, this is the essential message of Advaita Vedanta. Before we go into the methods of Advaita Vedanta, a big picture, a little bit of a commentary on the big picture of religion and spirituality. Notice when you have a statement like that thou art, that ultimate reality of the universe, thou, you are that. If you think about religion, there are these two kinds of religions in the world. There are two kinds of religion, two kinds of spirituality in the world. One is uh, that-based spirituality. Another one is a thou-based spirituality. One is a God-based spirituality. One is a self-based spirituality. What do I mean by that? The first kind is something that's familiar to people in the West. The second kind is new, but it is well known in India. See, it's pretty natural because all our experience, all the time, our experience has this structure of subject and object. I am the experiencer, and there's something that I experience right now. You are the experiencer, you're the subject, and everything else, including the rest of us, are all objects of experience to you. So every experience that we have is subject object. And when we are searching for God, we are searching for spirituality, it's natural that we might search in the object, in the universe out there, or within us, in ourselves. So when you look for reality, spiritual reality, in what we are experiencing, a power behind everything, the creator of this everything, that is the God of religion. So there are God-based religions, and you might ask that, hey, wait a minute, isn't that sort of tautological? Religion has to be God-based. No, it doesn't have to be. Spirituality doesn't have to be God-based. One is a God-based kind of spirituality where you are seeking God. Examples would be Christianity and Islam and Judaism and a whole range of schools in in Hinduism. For example, Vaishnavism or Shaivism or Shaktaism, and multiple God-based approaches within Hinduism also. And the Upanishads support this kind of an approach. There is the other kind of religion too, which doesn't have anything to do with God. It's a self-inquiry based approach. I'm not saying a self-centered approach, that sounds awful. It's a self-inquiry based approach. So, for example, Buddhism. Buddhism doesn't have anything to do with God. In fact, some Buddhist scholars, some Buddhist masters were outright agnostic or atheistic. So, what does Buddhism deal with? Deals with inquiry into ourselves. Who am I, or what am I? Another approach in India is Jainism. So that's a very ancient religion in India. Those of you know it is at least as old as Buddhism, actually older. Jainism doesn't have anything to do with God either. It's actually a method of self purification and enlightenment about oneself and freedom from for oneself. So there are these religions which are self inquiry based. And why just religions? If you compare yourselves, our own personal spiritual quest, we would find we fall in either category. Either we are seeking God, or we're trying to find out who am I. I used to teach monastic novices, and I would ask them, what made you become a monk? So some of them would say, I'm searching for God, I'm looking for God, I want to find God. And some would say, God is okay, but I want to know who am I. I want to, and this is perfectly all right in India because it is well known that religion can be of different kinds. In the West, that's why Buddhism is fascinating for a lot of people because it's a religion, and yet it doesn't have anything to do with God. How could that be? And even I know a monk in our order who is very devotional, who says in exasperation, Buddhism is only half a religion. There's no God there. It's a system of ethics and meditation, but where's God? Well, Buddhism is not about God. It's about self-inquiry. And the nature of these religions also is a bit different. So the devotional religions, the God-based religions are usually devotional. You will find there is faith and there is surrender and love and adoration. Remember, I'm painting the big picture here. I know there are all sorts of subtle differences. Whereas the self-inquiry based religions, Buddhism, Jainism, in Hinduism, we have something like Sankhya and yoga, Patanjali yoga. They are all, they are more meditation based, philosophical. Sometimes they are more monastic, the self-inquiry based religions. They have their unique advantages and disadvantages. But one of the unique advantages of a self inquiry based religion is that nobody really doubts the existence of oneself. Contrast that with the huge doubts we have about the existence of God. See, the problem with a God based religion is right off, one can doubt the existence of God. And especially in this day and age, when you're going to be questioned by Richard Dawkins and Christopher Hitchens, bless his soul. You've got who else? Sam Harris or Daniel Dennett. You have to face that. And then God becomes subject to so many attacks. So my own existence cannot be doubted, which is what Descartes found. All right. All this is background to say Advaita Vedanta is unique. What it says is that what you find in the God-based religions and what you find in the self-inquiry based religions is one and the same. You arrive at the same point. That's the meaning of that thou art. There is a that-based religion, God-based, and thou-based religion, you-based, and both of them, they lead you to the same reality ultimately. So this is a very an extraordinary insight into how Advaita Vedanta works. I'll just say it outright, and then if you want more clarification, we'll go into it. The way I say it is like this. What Advaita Vedanta does is it takes the certitude of one's own existence and then finds there the infinitude of God. I'll repeat that. You start with the certitude of your own existence. You surely, surely do exist. And then we investigate that and we end up with the infinitude of God. So Advaita Vedanta is talking about a certain and infinite self, or a certain and infinite reality. As we go through this process, you will see at each step, it can't be doubted. It's pretty logical, pretty persuasive, and at all times experience based. And yet, where we end up is incredible. We end up with God. This, I think, is a wonderful, it's a very profound way of looking at religion, Advaitic perspective of religion. Okay. Now, I've already introduced one thing which I wanted to say was that Advaita it talks about self-inquiry. When we want to reach this enlightenment, that I am that absolute reality, where do I start? What do I do? So we start with ourselves. We start with inquiring into who am I? And that inquiry will lead us into an answer about who am I. We'll find God also along the way. It becomes one and the same reality. The Advaitic perspective is that you are Brahman, you are the absolute reality appearing as this universe. That absolute reality is immortal. So, as that reality, you cannot die. You are not born, you do not die either. Body is born, the body dies, but you do not die. You are immortal. That absolute reality, Brahman, doesn't get sick. So, you don't get sick either. The body can get sick, however, but you don't get sick. That absolute reality is basically the entire universe. Its universe is nothing but that. So you are basically the entire universe. There's nothing in this universe which is apart from you. That's basically the meaning of non-duality, no second reality. That means there's nothing that you could possibly want. It's you have it all because it's you. All of this is you. It's like in a dream. When you wake up from a dream, you're not really particularly attached. No, I was eating this lovely pizza and I woke up, oh, I've lost that pizza. You realize it wasn't there. It was just a product of your mind. Similarly, there is nothing in this universe which is apart from you, that basic fundamental reality. And also, so there's nothing that here that could tempt you or you could want. And the other thing also holds good. There's nothing here that can threaten you or scare you. Advaita talks about the ultimate security. And the philosopher Wittgenstein said, religion is the quest for ultimate security. So Advaita Vedanta tells you that's actually possible. And not only possible, we already have it. So we are Brahman. Another unique thing about Advaita Vedanta is, consider the kind of spiritual journey we're talking about here. So here we are not talking about a spiritual journey, from earth to heaven. Sometimes I see billboards, big boards advertised by churches. After death, you will see God. Now, notice the word after death. It's a time word, which means not now, but then, not here, but there. So it's a journey, say, from one place to another, from here to heaven, from an awful world to a perfect heaven, or from a terrible present to a very good future, not now, but then. But Advaita Vedanta says you are that reality right now. You were that, you are that, and you're going to be that all the time. Right here, right now, you are that reality. So it's not a journey in space, it's not a journey in time. Then what kind of a spiritual journey is Advaita Vedanta? It's a journey from ignorance to knowledge, from not knowing, not realizing, to knowing and realizing what I am, not just me, all of us, and everything, what that reality is, to realize that. Now, the problem is, see, if I say to you that God's in his heaven and all's right with the world, you can't catch me out on that, because you say, where's God? Show me. I said, I can't show you because God's in heaven. Or show me. I can't show you, not now. God's after death. So I escaped the hook, and after that, you can't catch me anyway. But if I tell you God's right here and right now, you can legitimately ask, where? And you say that everything is Brahman, and I see nothing as Brahman. So what do I do then? So Advaita Vedanta says it's as if it's hidden by a veil of ignorance, and that ignorance can be pierced by knowledge. Where does knowledge come from? Knowledge comes from inquiry, any kind of knowledge. It comes from asking, from questioning, from investigating, from inquiry. So there's a Sanskrit word for this inquiry. It's called vichara, philosophical inquiry. Inquiry into what? So there's this saying about, there's a dictum about knowledge. Knowledge will remove ignorance on two conditions. One is the object of knowledge and the object of ignorance must be the same. I'll explain. And the locus of knowledge and ignorance must be the same. What does that mean? Something pretty simple. Philosophers have a way of making things complex. It just means my knowledge must be about the thing I'm ignorant about. So if I'm ignorant about German, I need to know German. It would help me if I learn, say, mathematics. My ignorance of German won't go if I learn some other subject. So the object of ignorance and the object of knowledge must coincide. What I don't know, I must get knowledge about that. I don't know about my real nature. If Vedanta is correct, that I am Brahman, I am one with God, well, I don't know that. That's the object of my ignorance. And the object of my knowledge also must be the same thing. It must tell me who I am or show me. And the second one is locus. Where the ignorance is, there the knowledge must come. And obviously, if the ignorance is in my mind and the knowledge is in the mind of my professor or my guru, that won't help me. The knowledge must be awakened in my mind. So that goes there. I'm again reminded of the philosopher Wittgenstein. He said, in all things that truly matter, uh, language cannot express it, but it can be shown. Language can help you to see it. And actually, that's pretty profound, because Advaita Vedanta functions in that way. It can't be said outright, but it can be shown to us what Advaita Vedanta wants to tell us. And we'll try to see that today. So what do we have here? You are that absolute reality, Tattvamasi, that thou art. I'm reminded of the great German medieval mystic, Meister Eckhart, who said, the ground of my soul and the ground of God are one and the same. So the reality of who I am, and the reality of what God is one and the same reality. It's very Advaitic. I mean, I would say this is a perfect Advaitic statement. And it's another thing that we feel is that mystics in all religions have intuited this. What Advaita Vedanta is saying, it's not just peculiar to one school of Hinduism. It's mystics in different world religions, great spiritual masters have all come to that same realization. So now we know that I'm supposed to be that absolute reality, and if I know that, if I see it for what I am, then all my problems are solved, because I found God. Literally, I am one with God. I and my Father are one. Not just Jesus can say it, but actually all of us can and should be able to say that honestly. Now, how do I do that? Vedanta says self-inquiry. Where do I start? You have to ask the question, who am I or what am I? And thing is, I know what I am. That's the first big hurdle. I'll say, but I know. My passport tells me who I am. I have got my CV, which will tell me my life story. It's Mark Twain who said, it's not what you don't know that gets you into trouble. It's what you think you know that gets you into trouble. So we think we know who we are. But Vedanta claims that you are wrong. So what Vedanta will do is it'll ask us, oh, all right, tell me who you are. And we normally start with this, this body. So it starts with the body, then examines the mind, examines the intellect. This person, it subjects it to forensic philosophical investigation, logical investigation, and then shows us step by step that yes, there's a body, there's a mind, but you can't be the body or the mind. It's quite unsettling actually, because at no point are you being asked to believe in anything or take it on faith. If you do, it won't work. You have to examine it. And then we come to the discovery. The final step will be, like Wittgenstein would say, it can be shown, it can't be said. And hopefully we will see when it is. The whole process is, it's like finding a needle on a mountainside, not in a haystack, on a mountainside. So it's something that a Tibetan Lama once said. So it starts with something obvious and then goes deeper and subtler. So it's like the first set of instructions will be like, go up the mountainside, then go to that side of the mountain. Then there you will see a big tree. And then you go to the tree. Next to the tree, you'll see a rock. And go to the edge of that rock. And then that particular place, you have to look carefully at that edge and that place and under the rock. There's a small little cleft there. Look in there, and then you will find a needle. Now, the final instruction, that little place under the rock in that cleft there, that's the last instruction that can be given. And then you are expected to see it with your own eyes. The last instruction isn't the answer to the question of who am I. You have to take that one final step and that aha moment. I see it with my own eyes. And all the instructions are supposed to telescope, bring you to that particular moment. That's how it works. Practically, what do we do? Three things: hearing, thinking, meditating. Hearing, thinking, meditating, or hearing or listening. Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. It's sort of common with many of these traditions, not just Advaita Vedanta. I was happy and surprised to find that's exactly the process they follow in Tibetan Buddhism, for example. So first you listen to these teachings, and then you think about it, then you meditate. Each of these three steps is supposed to fulfill a particular purpose. The purpose of hearing is it's complete when you can say, I know the teaching. What the Upanishad, what Advaita Vedanta, what Swami is telling me, I can tell you now. I know the teaching. I've heard it. I've got the book. I've read it. I can tell it to you in my own words. In the old days, they would make you memorize the Sanskrit verses, but you don't have to go that far. If you can sort of sum up what I'm saying today, what you read in Advaita Vedanta books, good. First step over, done. Second step, what's the problem now? You've got the first step down, but now the problem would be, yes, I know the teaching, but I don't get it. I have so many confusions, problems. It's not very clear to me. So then you ask questions. You ask the teacher, you ask students, and you try to think it through yourself. That's what works best. Till you get to a position where, okay, I get it now. Aha, this is what it means. It's clear to me now. It all makes sense. So that's the second stage is complete. The stage of thinking, reasoning. In Sanskrit, mananam is that's complete when I can say I know the teaching and I get it. What remains after that? Well, one might still say I get it, but it hasn't delivered the goods. My life is still what it was, and I'm still this person who now knows a cool philosophy, who has done lots of nice classes online, but I'm still struggling. It hasn't really given me the promise you'll go beyond suffering. The Swami told me I'll go beyond suffering, I'll attain lasting fulfillment. It hasn't happened. So that third part is meditation. What you have heard, what you have understood, Stay with it. And so there are multiple techniques of meditation, how you stay with that clarity you have already gained. Notice then in Vedanta, in Advaita Vedanta, meditation comes at a very late stage, and it won't work if you go directly into meditation. No more than if you go to a classroom to learn mathematics or physics, and the professor tells you, look, read the book, come to the class, then think about it, and then think some more, sit very quietly and intensely with it, then you'll get it. And if somebody goes, aha, so you will get it if you sit quietly, very, very quietly. Good. I won't go to class. I won't read the books. I won't think about it. I just sit very, very quietly and I'll get mathematics. You won't. You won't. It's a knowledge system. It's a transfer of knowledge. So Advaita Vedanta is a transfer of knowledge. You have to listen to this and study the texts, the Upanishads, commentaries, and other. One good thing about Advaita Vedanta is whatever text you pick up, it'll teach you the same thing. You don't have to read all the texts. And then you have to think it through, and then only this meditation will work. Good. Listening, thinking, and meditating. And then hopefully you will see what they're trying to show us. We will see for ourselves, and that's it. It will be done. Now we will actually take a look at one of these procedures. There are different ones. Three of my favorite, the well-known ones are the inquiry based on the three states of waking, dreaming, deep sleep. That's drawn from the Mandukya Upanishad, the one which I said is the shortest and the most powerful. That's a method called Avasthatraya Vichara. Vichara means inquiry. And Avasthatraya means the three states of waking, dreaming, deep sleep. That's one. And I'm not going to go into that. If you're interested in that one, that was the subject of that talk, Who Am I? You can take a look at that. Another one of my favorite ones is called Drishya Viveka, the inquiry based on seer and the seen. I have a whole series of 12 talks. There's a book called that, Drishya Viveka, but it comes from the Upanishads. Then the third one, which I will talk about today, is called Panchakosha Viveka, which means an inquiry into the five sheaths. Sheaths as in covering, the five sheaths or the five layers of the personality of our existence, an inquiry into that. So I'll take up the third one. What are we supposed to do? Same, listen, reason, and then meditate upon it. I summarize that in a simple way. I say that listen means you ask yourself, what did he say? That's first stage. Do I get it? That's the second stage. Is it real for me? That's the third stage. And what do you mean by is it real? Because after if you complete the first and second stages satisfactorily, you might be left with the feeling that that sounds great. It sounds very sophisticated, very clever. Well, I've just learned this nice, clever philosophy. It still sounds very theoretical to me. So if that's the situation, then we need the third stage, which is the stage of meditation, of assimilation, till it becomes a living reality. If I can say, yes, I know what he said, first stage is over. Yes, I get what he said, second stage is over. Yes, it's real for me, third stage is over. Then what? Then you're enlightened. Congratulations. So if you can really say honestly, I am Brahman, good. Then that's the end. That's the end game of thousands of lifetimes of striving. And you have reached fulfillment. You have become an enlightened sage. Congratulations. You have reached the end of the entire evolutionary process of the universe. You're the final product. But anyway, all right. So the five sheets of the human personality, the method based on the five sheets of the human personality. Just by the way, these are methods in order to show us something, the needle on the side of the hill, and the Wittgenstein's what can be shown but not said. So when we do this, note that Vedanta is actually not interested in the three states. It's not interested in your dreams, in your sleep, much less in your sleep or in your waking. It's using those three to point out that you are Brahman. It's not interested in the body or the breath, not even in the mind. It's using these five levels to point out that you are Brahman. It's something that people are they miss. That they think it's about dreams. I mean, if you're interested in what's happening in your dreams, go to your a psychoanalyst. Vedanta is not interested in what happens in your dreams. It's using that to point out something else. All right. This method, the method of the five sheaths, is based on the Taittiriya Upanishad. Let me quickly run you to the prelude to this method, and then we'll dive into the method. As a bonus, I'll chant the Upanishad. It helps me to translate, but it also gives us a sound of the original Sanskrit. And this is directly from the Upanishad. So it's anything between 3,000 to 5,000 years old. This was already very, very ancient, even before the Buddha was born. And that was 2,500 years ago. It's very ancient text. Om Brahma Vidapnoti Param. Om, the knower of Brahman, attains the highest. So this is the subject for the entire second chapter of the Upanishad. Just one short sentence. The knower of Brahman attains the highest. Then three questions come to us. What is Brahman? How do you know Brahman? And what do you mean the highest? What do you get? What is Brahman? How do you know Brahman? What do you get out of all of this? Then the next three sentences answer these questions. Tadeshabhyukta satyam jnanamanantam brahma. It is said, infinite consciousness and being is Brahman. Satyam, being or existence. Jnanam, consciousness or knowledge. Anantam, infinite. Brahma. Brahman is infinite consciousness existence. All right, second question. So that was, what is Brahman? Second question, how do we know Brahman? Yo veda nihitam guhayam parame vyoman. How do you know Brahman? You have to know it as in the sacred space in the cave of the heart. Basically, what it means, it's a poetic way of saying you have to know it as I am Brahman. My innermost reality. I am Brahman. That's how you have to know it. How do you do that? That's our subject today. But the third question first. Third question was, what do you get out of this? What's the result of all of this? So ashrute sarvan kaman saha brahmana vipaschiteti. He attains the fulfillment of all desires simultaneously by the realization of Brahman. The realization of Brahman results in the fulfillment of all desires simultaneously. By the way, that does not mean that all your Christmas lists are immediately checked. You get all your presents all at the same time. No, it means you attain that fulfillment, that non-dual realization. You realize there is nothing, really nothing apart from you in this entire universe. You may be a wandering monk clad only in loincloth without a penny to your name in the world. No, just totally alone in the world, and you could be absolutely the happiest person in the world. You would feel as if you possess the entire universe. You would know that you possess the entire universe. So that is the result of all of this. You are completely fulfilled. There's nothing in the world that you would want after this anymore. The Bhagavad Gita says that attaining which nothing greater remains to be attained, centered in which the greatest of sorrows cannot shake you. Yang labdhva na chaparam labham manyate tatodhikam yasmin sthito dukkhena guruna api vichalyate. So you are not shaken by the heaviest of sorrows. All right. Now we go back to the second question. I love doing this. Let me chant this, what I did chanted. Let me chant it the way it is actually chanted, in a flow. So now you know the meaning of it. The knower of Brahman attains the highest. What is Brahman? Brahman is infinite existence consciousness. How do you know Brahman? You know Brahman in the sacred space of the cave of the heart. What do you get out of it? You get the fulfillment of all desires simultaneously by knowing Brahman, the original Sanskrit. Om Brahma Vedapnoti Param Tadeshabhyukta Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma Yo Veda Nihitam Guhayam Parame Vyoman So Vashnute Sarvan Kaman Saha Brahmana Vipaschiteti. Now we go back to the second question. How do I know Brahman? And we know the answer, that it has to be inquiry. Inquiry into what? Inquiry into who am I? Wait a minute. I know who I am. Really? Who are you? Please point it out. This is who I am. So that's where it starts next. It starts with the body, which we instinctively identify ourselves with. Okay, that's a good place to start. You think you are the body. Yes, I am this. You point yourself out. This. When you ask, show me yourself. This. And then somebody holds this body and says, what is this? It is I. Who are you? This. What is this? I. I feel I am the body, and I feel the body is I. This identification, it starts there. This is called Annamaya, the first sheath or the first stage. Annamaya Atma. What does it mean? The self made of food and drink. Literally, this body is a product of what we have eaten and what we eat and drink. So food is this body. It's a transformation of food. That's why this body is called Annamaya Atma, literally meaning the self, which is a transformation of food. Why is it called the self? Because I think this is the self. I am this. I'm being asked, what am I? I am this. What they're going to do now is, the Upanishads said, where do we find Brahman? You find Brahman in the sacred space in the cave of the heart. A poetic way of saying you find Brahman as yourself. It also means look upon the body mind as a cave. And as we go into this cave, we will go through 5 stages, deeper and deeper and deeper. And the promise is, when we reach the deepest part of the cave, the innermost part of the cave, we will find what has been promised, infinite existence consciousness. And this journey, you have to go together with the Upanishad. This is the journey into yourself. At no point is it going to be theoretical. It's going to be all that we all the time know and we feel. We have it all available right now. At no point are we going to be told that, okay, the rest of it is you meditate a lot and then you'll have a flash of light and you'll realize this. No. It's all available to us now. And we haven't noticed it. The Upanishad is just going to take us by the hand into ourselves. So first, it starts at the beginning of the cave, the physical body. So you think you're the body. Yes. But notice something, that the body changes. Yes, it changes. So it changes a lot. Imagine the body when it was born, and the baby, and the little child, and the teenager, and the young person you were, and the middle-aged person, and the elderly body. This changed a lot. If you look at your baby picture and your picture now, maybe your mom couldn't recognize you. So it's changed that much. And yet I say, I am the same one. I am the one. I can't claim that there's somebody else who was the baby and there's somebody else who was this. No, it's exactly the same person. So I have this intuitive feeling that I was in that body, and that body has changed. Every physiologist will tell me every cell in the body is different. In over 7 years, most of the matter, all of the matter of this body it goes out, and a new matter comes in. In fact, the body is a name of a stream of matter, continuously in motion. Which one am I? Which slice of this body, the stream called the body, am I? I can't be all of it because it's continuously changing. I can't be one thing, then I won't be the other one. I feel that I am the same one there. I met this elderly nun in Santa Barbara, and she was telling me, just this yesterday, I saw the shop front window in Santa Barbara, and I thought, who is that old lady? And she was telling me it's been like, it was her own reflection. She says, 40 years ago, I came as a young girl to the convent to become a nun. And it's so fresh in my mind, that young girl who came to this convent. It's 40 years later now. And I say, who's this old lady I'm seeing in the shop front mirror, in the window? So which body am I? Changing and unchanging, they cannot be the same thing. See, what are we doing here? We are presenting an argument. These are not proofs like mathematical proofs. These are more like lawyers' arguments. They are meant to be persuasive, like a lawyer makes a case to the judge and the jury and tells them that, so this is why you should listen to me. So this is a kind of attempt to persuade us. You instinctively, intuitively feel you are one person. You are an individual. And the body is anything but one. It's a continuous stream. The changing and unchanging, how can they be the same? And just think about it intuitively. If somebody is running past fast, and if you catch hold of that person who's running fast, In that case, what will happen is either you will be dragged on or that person will come to a stop. Similarly, something that's changing so much, if you grab hold of it, I am this. Either you will be swept along and then you cannot say that you are the same, or the body will stop changing, it will die. Changing and unchanging, it cannot be the same thing. Again, one more argument. It's an object of our experience. See, it's like this. I look at this piece of cloth, my eyes see this piece of cloth, and I feel I am the seer and the cloth is seen. The eyes which are seeing and the cloth which is seen, they have to be different. The eyes can only see that which is um, at a distance from the eyes. The only thing that the eyes cannot see are the eyes themselves, right? You have to put something that's different from the eyes at a distance, then only the eyes can see. You may say, you don't look particularly convinced. You may say, Swami, have you tried looking into a mirror? Try looking into a camera right now. You can see your own eyes. No, but in the mirror, you see a reflection of your eyes. Right now in the camera, when I look into the eyes, it's a picture of my eyes. It's not the way the eyes directly see the cloth is not the way the eyes can directly, they cannot see themselves directly. In fact, it's a principle in philosophy. Things do not operate upon themselves. It's called the rule of the self-reflexivity. An axe doesn't cut itself, and fire doesn't burn itself, and the eyes don't see themselves directly, and so on. In that case, the body is something that I can see. I can touch the body, I can smell, taste. All the five senses objectify the body. Therefore, the body is not something that I am. I can objectify, I experience the body. Body is something experienced. I see it, hear it, smell it, taste it, just like any object. And to do that, it must be something different from me. So I am not the body because the body is seen, heard, smelled, tasted, touched, and I am the seer of the body or the knower of the body. Knower and known, they cannot be the same thing. One more argument and we will go on. This is a subtle argument. It says, notice in every experience you are aware and there is something that you are aware of. This is different from the second argument, the seer and the seen. Here we are asking the question, where is awareness? So when I am looking at this cloth, it's true that I am the seer, this is the seen, the seer and the seen must be different. But awareness, on which side is awareness? Is the cloth aware of me or am I aware of the cloth? I am aware of the cloth. How do you know, Swami? That's how you feel. Just notice your experience. You clearly feel, I am aware of the cloth. Awareness is here and the cloth is here. Now, when I look at my hand, I have pretty much the same experience. I'm aware of the hand. I don't think the hand is aware of me. It doesn't say, hello, Swami, and good to meet you. No, it has no sense of being aware of me or anything else, neither of itself, nor of anything else, nor of me. In fact, I am aware of this hand, and the entire body. No part of the body seems to be aware of me or itself or anything else. Now, don't get me wrong. The body feels conscious. Body is full of, it feels like a conscious body. It's because of your presence there. You, the consciousness, are present there. You're embodied there. That's why it feels conscious. Notice the body doesn't feel conscious if you go into a deep sleep or you are in a dream. Then your consciousness is elsewhere. The body does not feel conscious. So the body feels conscious because of your presence. Consciousness is on your side. It's not on the side of the body. The body is not conscious. You are conscious of it. These are three arguments which I've shared quickly. They are called savikara, nirvikara, with change and without change. Clearly, the body changes from childhood to youth to middle age to old age, and I feel intuitively I'm the same person. Same changing. Savikara, nirvikara, they cannot be the same thing. That's argument one. Argument two, seer and seen. In Sanskrit, drashta drish. Whatever you experience must not be you, literally. Whatever you are, what you experience must be different from you, must be a different entity. Clearly, I experience the body. It's an object to all of my senses. I can use these senses embedded in the body to experience the body. I can see it and touch it, smell it, taste it. So the body is an object of experience. I am the subject. The two cannot be the same thing. Never is. So I am not the body. Third, in Sanskrit, drashta drishya. Third, chit jara in Sanskrit. Chit means conscious, sentient. Jara means insentient, not conscious. I am conscious of the body. Body is not conscious of me or anything else. Therefore, I cannot be the body. Because if I were the body, then I would be both conscious and not conscious at the same time. I would be both changing and not changing at the same time. I would be both the seer and the seen at the same time. I cannot be. What are we supposed to make of this? Three things. Did I hear what the arguments were? Second, do I get the arguments? Third, does it feel like a fact? That counterintuitive. I never thought that I was not the body, but in some sense, then I'm not literally the body. That kind of a feeling, that kind of a doubt at least must be generated in the questioning. I can't literally be the body. Then we go on to say that, hey, wait a minute, I didn't mean that I'm literally flesh and blood and bones. No, I'm more than that. I'm this living being, I'm a living person in this body, but I'm not literally the body. So, for example, when the body dies, I am no longer there. Body is there. It's a dead body. So I am a living person. This is the next stage. And the Upanishad says, so now we are not the body, are we? No, I guess not. But I'm in the body. So what's the next thing? The Upanishad says, Anyo antaratma pranamayaha. Sanskrit for Anya. So the self, you are not literally the body. Seems like that. What could it be? Are you outside the body or are you in there somewhere? I feel I'm in there somewhere. Okay, let's go deeper into the cave. Remember, we are penetrating the cave of the heart. We're going inside. Let's go deeper. What's deeper than the body? What's inner to the body? Now, be careful. When I say inner, it doesn't mean inner in a physical sense. If you go in the body in a physical sense, take a tube and put it in the body and take a look, you'll find more body. And worse, you'll find all the gooey, sticky stuff inside. So physically, if you go inside, you will find the body and more of the body. What is meant by inner is in a physiological sense, in a psychological sense, in a more subtle sense. What do I mean? What are the physiological forces, the biological forces, the life forces which keep this body alive? Basically, in simple words, life. So am I life itself? So in Sanskrit, prana. There's a whole set of systems which are going on to keep this body alive. Circulation, food and assimilation, digestion, enzymes being produced, the neurological system, all of it together, all the complex processes. And every doctor knows this, that those are the important things, not the actual flesh and bones. That the life processes are the most important thing. Am I that? That's the next question. So Upanishad is proceeding carefully. If it reminds you of a set of Russian nested dolls, it's a bit like that, but there's a big surprise coming at the end. Russian dolls, there's a big doll out, and then you open it up, there's a doll inside, and you open that up, there's a smaller doll inside. So are we supposed to find like the 5 dolls smaller and smaller inside, and then finally we'll find the self, Atman, Brahman, or whatever? Well, we'll see what happens. So right now we are at the second level, at the second stage inside, subtle, prana, life itself. In Vedanta, in Indian philosophy, in fact, one of the most obvious signs of prana is breath, breathing. Okay. Prana. Are you prana? Are you life itself? Let's use the same arguments. Does it change? Does life change? Yes. Sometimes you're hungry and you eat a little, you are full. Sometimes you feel sick and then you feel energetic, you feel tired. All of these are like the ebb and flow of the tides of life in this body. We have experienced this all our lives. So these life forces, as you get older, for example, that undying, the undiminished source of energy you had at 21 is no longer there when you hit 51. You tire very easily. And so this is prana. I was reading memoirs of a general in Second World War. He says something I stuck my mind many years ago. It struck my mind. he got a heart attack. War is a difficult business, so it's day and night. You have to. It's full of tension and anxiety. He got a heart attack, and he writes in his memoirs that now I realize how Alexander the Great conquered half the world. He was 21. So are your life, right? It changes. It changes continuously. And simplest, breathing in and breathing out. So which part of prana, which state of prana are you in? Prana, life forces are in continuous flux, changing and unchanging. It can't be the same thing, because I said, I am the one who was sick. I am the one who was healthy. I am the one who was tired. I'm the one who was energetic. I'm the one who was hungry. I'm the one who was feeling full and satiated. Then which one are you? Because the prana is different in every case. And you're saying you're the same one. Your own experience tells you you are the one in all these experiences. And the prana keeps fluctuating because and generating these experiences. So you can't be all of it. You are that which experienced the prana generating health, sickness. You experience the prana generating, hunger and satiation and so on. Another argument, um, seer and seen, the same argument, drashta and drishya. Are you aware of the prana? Notice it, breathing in. You're aware that you're breathing in. Breathing out, you're aware that you're breathing out. You better be aware of the prana. The whole mindfulness industry depends on you being aware of the prana. That is the breathing and the breathing out. It's ABCD for mindfulness meditation. And mindfulness meditation, they're interested in the breath, or more precisely, that's unfair. They're interested in using the breath as to anchor the mind, to stabilize the mind. But in Vedanta, we're just interested in one fact, that you are able to observe the prana. If you're able to observe the prana, breathing in, I see I'm breathing in, breathing out. There's a beautiful instruction. Um, Breathing in, and I'm fully present. Breathing out, and I smile. That's nice. But if you are able to observe the breathing in and the breathing out, then the breath is an object, and you are the subject. You are the seer, and the breath is the seen. Seer and seen cannot be the same, remember. They must be different in some sense. So I, the observer of the breathing in and breathing out, I cannot be the prana literally. I'm the observer of prana. I'm the subject and object. Therefore, I'm not the prana. And then the third one, consciousness. Are you aware of the breath, or is the breath aware of you? Try it now. Breathe in. You were aware of it. That lungful of air was not aware of you or itself or anything else. So you are aware of the breath, and the breath is not aware of you. Consciousness is on your side, not on the side of that little bit of air. So I am chit, sentience. Prana is not conscious. It's insentient. In Sanskrit, jara. Because of these three arguments, and there are many more possible. I'm just using three now. The three arguments: changing, unchanging. In Sanskrit, nitya, savikara, nirvikara. I cannot be the prana. Subject and object, seer and seen. Sanskrit, drashta, drishya. I cannot be the prana. And then conscious and not conscious, sentient, insentient. In Sanskrit, chit, jara. I am conscious. Prana is not, breath is not conscious. Therefore, I cannot be the conscious. I cannot be the breath. Therefore, I'm not the breath either. It's changing, an object, not conscious. I'm unchanging. I'm the subject, and I'm conscious. How can they be the same thing? And then the Upanishad says, so now we are agreed that you are not the prana either. Yes, looks like that. Onward then, deeper into the cave. And the Upanishad says, Anyantaratma manomayaha. What are you then? You feel inward in there somewhere? Yes. What's subtler than the body? What's subtler than the breath? Well, the mind, which is doing all this thinking. We all have minds, we have thoughts, we have memories, and we have emotions. All of this, that's the place where all the sensations come from, the eyes and ears. And it's like a switchboard. Right now, we are experiencing it. Where all memories are stored, where the memories are actually excavated, they are recovered, where there are emotions. All of this is what I call a label mind inside when I look there. Am I the mind? Aha, now we are onto something. This is what I wanted to say all along. Yes, I am a mind. I'm a person. I'm not a body or breath or anything like that, but I'm a person in this body. I'm a mind in a body. That's what most people actually think. Most of us, we don't go any further than that. We feel most grown up, thinking, educated people feel most closely identified with the mind. Yes, now we have it. I'm a mind. Basically, I'm a person. And there is a body, of course, and it's a living body. So prana is there and body is there. Well, the Upanishad says, why don't you apply those three arguments? See what comes out of it. Changing, unchanging. Does the mind change? Oh boy, does it change? From morning till now, how many times alert, how many times sleepy, how many times irritated, how many times peaceful, how many times bored, how many times curious. And that's just one day. Imagine the over your lifetime. Imagine your mind when you were 16 years old. How different kind of thoughts you had, kind of emotions you had, things which troubled you, bothered you, engaged you, excited you. You might be embarrassed at at this time, but to think about that, you have to own it up that that was your mind. You were there. That was you. How about when you were 5 years old or 2 years old? It could as well be the mind of an alien. You won't find anything in common. What did the 2-year-old mind think of? What did it? What frightened it? What caused it delight? You would. I mean, it would be sort of very difficult for us to at this age to identify with any of that, to feel any of that. And yet, I have to be honest. That was the mind I had when I was 2 years old. When the body was 2 years old. So I am this. I feel I am the same person, but the mind changed wildly. It changes wildly in a day, and it changed wildly over a lifetime. How can I, unchanging, and the mind changing tremendously? How can it be the same thing? Changing and unchanging, how can it be the same thing? It can't be. Again, use the other one, the object and subject. I am the seer and the mind is something seen. Can you see your mind? Yes. It's called introspection. Uh, When you look into when you look into your mind, examine your feelings. Every therapist makes you do that. Examine your motives. Um, you know, what is the classic question a therapist will ask you? How does that make you feel? That's the second question therapist asks you. First question is anything, and then whatever you say, then how does that make you feel? Well, how do you answer that question? By looking into your mind. So the mind is something that you are aware of. It's an object to you. You are the subject. You can examine your thoughts. But the subject and the object cannot be the same thing. The seer and the seen cannot be the same thing. They You have to distinguish between them. However implausible it might be, I'm forced to think that, well, actually, the mind is also an object. And the third argument, conscious, not conscious. Here it's stunning what Vedanta shows us. Even the mind is not conscious. You are conscious of the mind. This doesn't seem right because we all feel if anything is conscious, it's the mind is conscious. I can demonstrate it to you in stark terms right now. Think a thought. A, B, C, D, 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, anything, any thought right now. And hold on to that thought, A, B, C, D. Now ask yourself, are you aware of A, B, C, D, or is A, B, C, D aware of you? You say, what a silly question, Swami. A, B, C, D is just like mental talk. It's not aware of me or anything else, or of itself, of me or anything else. It's just like mental talk, A, B, C, D, or 1, 2, 3, 4. And all thinking is like that. You are aware of these thoughts. Thoughts are not aware of you or anything else. You are conscious. Thoughts seem to be conscious because of their proximity to you. They shine in your light. They seem to be lit up themselves. The Upanishad says, you shining, everything else shines. By your light, everything here is lit up. Actually, the original Upanishad, Katha Upanishad, says, that shining, everything else shines. That means the Atman. By its light, everything is lit up. That means you actually, the Atman's light. So by you, the consciousness, everything here is lit up. Your mind is lit up by you. You are aware, the mind is not aware. It seems to be aware because of your presence there. Because of these three arguments, changing, unchanging, I'm not the mind. Seer and seen, I'm not the mind. Conscious, not conscious, I'm not the mind. We listen to these arguments, think it through, and at least create a kind of feel that maybe I'm not literally the mind, just as I'm not my flesh and bones, I'm not the breath, not even thoughts. Thoughts come and go. I am not literally the thought. If I were a thought, I would have come and gone. I don't arrive with the thoughts. I don't depart with the thoughts. The thoughts come and go like clouds in a vast blue sky. Okay. I am the vast blue sky. So I'm not even the mind. Now I'm seriously rattled. If I'm asked, what am I? If I'm not even the mind. What the Upanishad does is it makes a fine distinction in the mind itself. It distinguishes mind and intellect because the capacity of understanding, capacity of clarity, which we are using for this, the intellect. So it says, all right, let that be. Are you the intellect? Are you intelligence? It's the mind, but it's sort of higher function of the mind. The difference is when you're trying to solve a math problem, for example, that's the mind struggling with it. When you get it, that flash of insight, that's the intellect. Still mind, but it's a higher function. Upanishad says, Anyo antaratma vijnanamaya. And inner is the self, separate from the mind, anya, separate from the mind, from the prana, from the body. Inner is the self. What do you find there? The intellect. Let me suggest, is the intellect, are you the intellect? By this time, I think we are all wary. We know what the Upanishad is going to do to us. Is changing, unchanging, right? And the Upanishad says, yes. Does the intellect change? Of course it does. It's supposed to change. It's supposed to go from not knowing to knowing, not understanding, from not getting it to getting it. So intellect changes. And I feel I am the one who did not get it. I am the one who got it now. I'm the same one. Therefore, I cannot be the intellect because it changed. I did not change. Seer and seen. Can you see the functionings of the intellect? Of course. When I knew I couldn't get it, I was acutely aware that I'm not getting it. When I got it, I was delighted. Eureka, I got it. I'm acutely aware to the extent of jumping out of the bathtub and running down naked in the streets of Athens, was it? So I got it. I'm aware of that. Uh, so knower and known, seer and seen, different. Then conscious, not conscious. Chit jara. Am I aware of the intellect or is the intellect aware of me? Again, I'm aware of the intellect. The intellect is not aware of me. Even when you get the feeling of I've understood it, that understanding it shines in your light. Brilliant new idea, understanding, clarity. You are aware of that. So because of these reasons, you are not the intellect either. So this is called vijnana in Sanskrit. I'm not that either. All right, now we are in the deepest layers of the cave. We're getting very close to our quarry, which is none other than the self, ourselves. We're looking for ourselves. Who am I? Every possible answer that has been given, what I could give, the body, the prana, the mind, the intellect, all rejected. Now we have gone deeper, go further, go beyond the intellect, deeper than the intellect. What's there? If you do that, if you think of a situation where the body is, you're not feeling the body, you still the breath, stop thinking, feeling, perceiving, then stop all understanding, all theories, all understanding, just stop it all. Blank. It's something like deep sleep. So what we experience in deep sleep, the blankness, that in Vedanta it's called the Anandamaya, the bliss sheath. And there's a reason why it is called that. Am I that? The Just the blankness of deep sleep. If you shut down everything else, the deepest layer, the deepest core of the cave, just the darkness there. Is that my core? At the core, there's nothing, there's just blankness. And the Upanishad says, examine the same arguments. Deep sleep, does it come and go? Yes, it comes and goes. Is it something that is an object? Yes, I can speak about it. There's a lot of argument how it can be an object of our understanding. So it's an object. And are you conscious of it or is it conscious of you? Well, deep sleep is certainly not conscious of anything. It's blankness. It's in fact the closest we get to unconsciousness. But you are conscious of it. And I'm not going to argue that for lack of time. Um, just to leave you with a very interesting insight. This happened about 20 years ago in Calcutta at an institute. There was a conference between neuroscientists and philosophers, and they couldn't come to a working understanding of consciousness. So a philosopher an American, Professor Larson, who passed away recently. He asked the neuroscientist, Professor, according to neuroscience, is there consciousness in deep sleep? And it was a doctor of neuroscience. He said at that time, he says, no. According to the operational definition of consciousness we have got, there is no consciousness in deep sleep. It's a state of unconsciousness. And then the professor of philosophy, Indian philosophy, Larson, he said, well, according to Indian philosophy, there is only consciousness in deep sleep. There's nothing for consciousness to be conscious of. That's why you have the blankness. It's like light in deep space, between the sun and the earth. It's full of light, but it looks black because there's nothing in between. When a comet goes past or a satellite whizzes past, you see it shining suddenly. It doesn't have its own light, it's just reflecting sunlight. But when there's nothing to reflect, it looks black. Similarly, according to Indian philosophy, not just Advaita, Sankhya, and Yoga also, there is consciousness in deep sleep, but there's nothing to be conscious of. That's why it feels like that. No thoughts, no emotions, no ideas, not even the idea, I am sleeping. If you had that, you won't be sleeping. You'd still be thinking. So there is consciousness, and deep sleep is an object. And consciousness is on your side. It's not on the side of deep sleep. So all these arguments go to show that you cannot be the blankness of deep sleep. That also is not you. That's still a thing. And it comes and goes. Then what am I? And here we have come to the deepest, the last level of the cave. And then the Upanishad pulls a fast one on us. It keeps silent. It's like a guide who's been taking us deeper and deeper into the cave, and suddenly the guide disappears in the deepest stage of the cave. Oh, what am I then? If I'm not the body, if I'm not the prana, if I'm not the mind, if I'm not the intellect, if I'm not the complete blankness when I shut everything else down, then what am I? Upanishad is quiet. Our immediate reaction is, so there is no Atman, no self. Why did I join up for this class then? And the Upanishad says, I'll quote the original Sanskrit. Asad brahmaiti veda ched asanneva sabhavati. If someone doubts the existence of the self, then he would not exist or she wouldn't exist. You do exist, don't you? Yes, I do exist. So you do exist, but you haven't found what you, because whatever answer you gave about yourself has all been rejected by yourself. We are all agreed. Every candidate that you put forward, this is what I am, rejected. And yet you do exist. So this is the last point. It's being shown to us to figure it out for ourselves. Not figure it out, we have to see for ourselves. It's being shown. Practically, how do you practice this, or how do you practice it? You just you sit straight and you relax. You take time to sort of settle down. You may chant Om 10 times or 20 times. Do a little bit of breathing so that you're aware and relaxed. You don't have to be in a very deep meditative state, just enough to be attentive. Then you start with the body. And you can touch the body, you can look at the body, and you see how it is objectified. It's a thing. I'm not the body, I'm not the breath. Similarly, I'm not the mind. Notice thoughts. Take up actual thoughts. A, B, C, D, 1, 2, 3, 4, Om, whatever it is. Even the thought I. You notice it's a thought. It's not me. The changing, objective nature, non-sentient nature of thoughts. Then you go deeper. This understanding which we are using, that also is not me. That's what the Upanishad wants. To what is all this? Even the deepest silence of deep sleep, of the deepest meditation, to what is this appearing? You say, to me, the awareness. Yes. And then drop that also. You plunge into a nameless, into a radiant silence which cannot be described in words. And yet you know you are that, and you're that all the time. So that's how you do it. So this is called self-inquiry. This is one method.